You're on vacation. The beach is beautiful. And you're checking your email. You told yourself you wouldn't. You promised the people you love that this time you'd actually unplug. But here you are, thumb moving on its own. Because some restless thing inside, you cannot tolerate the silence of not producing. And it's not just the beach. It's the Sunday that feels wasted if you don't accomplish something. The vacation you spend, twitchy and guilty. The quiet evening that makes you reach for your laptop. Not because there's an emergency, but because doing nothing feels, somehow, unbearable. The world has a flattering word for this. Driven, ambitious, dedicated, a go-getter. And the world is mostly wrong. Because here's the truth almost nobody says out loud about the workaholic. They are usually not working because they love it. They are working because stopping is unbearable. Let's start by clearing up the most important confusion, because it's the one that hides the whole problem in plain sight. People assume a workaholic is just someone who really loves their job. But psychologists who study this draw a sharp line between two completely different things. On one side, there's work engagement. The engaged person is energized by their work, finds it meaningful, throws themselves into it, and then, crucially, they can switch it off. They go home, they recover, they rest, and they come back recharged. Work feeds them. On the other side is workaholism, and the workaholic works compulsively, driven by an inner pressure they can't turn off, often unable to enjoy the work at all, continuing even when it's clearly damaging their health, their family, their life. One person is pulled toward work by genuine desire. The other is pushed into it by something they can't name and can't escape. They can look identical from the outside, the same long hours, the same packed calendar. Inside, they could not be more different. And that word, workaholic, was chosen very deliberately to capture this. It was coined back in 1971 by a psychologist named Wayne Soates, and he built it directly on the word alcoholic, on purpose. He defined it as the compulsion or the uncontrollable need to work incessantly. He wasn't describing a hobby. He was describing an addiction. And here's where it gets clinical. Because modern researchers have taken that idea completely seriously. A researcher named Cecily Shaw Andreasen at the University of Bergen developed something called the Bergen Work Addiction Scale. And what's striking is how she built it. She took the exact same criteria psychologists use to define any addiction and applied them to work. Salience, when the activity dominates your thoughts. Tolerance, needing more and more of it to feel the same effect. Mood modification, using it to change how you feel. Withdrawal, becoming restless or irritable when you can't do it. Conflict, when it damages your relationships and your health. And relapse, repeatedly failing to cut back. Sound familiar? Those are the signs of a drug addiction. They're also, it turns out, the signs of work addiction. Researchers have even found that workaholism tends to travel alongside anxiety, depression, and obsessive tendencies. The point is this: you can be addicted to work in the same real clinical way a person is addicted to a substance. It just comes in a suit instead of a bottle. But here's the part that changes everything. The part that explains why a workaholic can't just decide to relax. Because of all those addiction signs, one is the secret engine of the whole thing: mood modification, using the behavior to manage your feelings. Because here's what's really going on. Most workaholics are not actually chasing money. They're not even really chasing success. They're escaping a feeling. There is some uncomfortable inner state, anxiety, guilt, emptiness, a low constant hum of not being enough. And they have discovered that work makes it go quiet. When you're buried in tasks, hitting deadlines, being productive, your brain gives you a hit of relief and reward. And for those hours, the bad feeling is drowned out by the noise of doing. Work is the drink. It's the thing that numbs what hurts. And that is exactly why rest is unbearable for these people. It isn't that they're bored when they stop. It's that the moment the work goes quiet, the feeling they've been outrunning comes flooding back in. So they pick the laptop back up, not for the work. For the silence it buys them from themselves. And if you want to know where that feeling usually comes from, you often have to go all the way back to childhood. Because a huge number of workaholics learned, very early, a single devastating lesson: that their worth was conditional. That love, approval, attention, and praise didn't come for who they were, they came for what they achieved. Maybe affection arrived with the good report card and vanished with the bad one. Maybe being useful, being impressive, being the achiever was the only reliable way to feel valued in their home. And a child who learns that grows into an adult who believes, somewhere deep beneath conscious thought, a single sentence: I am only valuable when I'm producing. Their entire sense of self fuses with their output. So for that person, rest isn't relaxing. Rest is terrifying, because if you are what you produce, then to stop producing is to become nothing. They're not working towards success. They're running from the feeling of being worthless. And the only thing that's ever kept that feeling at bay is the next task, and the next, and the next. Now here is what makes work addiction uniquely, brutally hard to escape, harder in some ways than almost any other. Every other addiction, the world tries to stop. If you drink too much, people stage interventions. If you gamble, they worry. But work? The world doesn't try to stop the workaholic. The world rewards them. They get the promotion, the raise, the praise, the status, the admiring, wow, you're so dedicated. We've built an entire culture around it: hustle, grind, rise and grind, the glorification of being busy. Workaholism is, quite simply, the best-dressed addiction there is, the only one we hand out awards for. And so the workaholic gets a constant stream of reinforcement for the very thing that's destroying them, and the addiction hides perfectly, in plain sight, wearing the costume of virtue. Nobody stages an intervention for the person who just works too hard. They give them Employee of the Month. But the bill always comes due, and for the workaholic it comes due in places that matter far more than work. The body keeps score. The World Health Organization has linked long working hours to a significantly higher risk of stroke and heart disease, tying hundreds of thousands of deaths a year to overwork. The mind keeps score too, in burnout, in anxiety, in sleep that never quite comes. And the people keep score. The partner who eats dinner alone, the kids who learned not to expect you at the game. And here is the cruelest twist of all. Because the work was never really about the work, there is no finish line. The workaholic tells themselves, I'll relax once I hit this goal, once I make this much, once I get this title. And then they hit it, and the peace they were promised lasts about a week. And the emptiness creeps back, and so the goalposts move, and the chase resumes. Because you cannot fill an inner emptiness with output. You can pour achievement into that hole for 40 years, and it will never be full. You'll just exhaust yourself, beautifully, productively, trying. So here is what I actually want you to take from all of this. If you're a workaholic, you are probably not greedy, and you are probably not even in love with your job. You are most likely someone who learned, a long time ago, that you were only safe, only lovable, only enough when you were being useful. And you've spent your life since then running from a feeling at the speed of busy, trying to fix with work a wound that work was never going to heal. The opposite of workaholism isn't laziness. It's something much harder and much braver. It's learning that you are allowed to be worth something while doing absolutely nothing at all. That you were enough before the first task of your life, and you will be enough after the last one. The work was never the thing that made you valuable. You just have to do the terrifying, freeing work of finding out that it's true. If this hit home, go ahead and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel. And if you want to support these deeper dives, hit the join button to become a member. I'll see you in the next one.